All right. Let's talk about the White House and how closely it is watching the Iranian threat. As you guys know, this is what we are following. This is the story of the weekend. Okay, here it is.
CNN has learned that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with his war cabinet just ahead of what they anticipate could be a potential attack from Iran. It comes after an Israeli airstrike hit the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria last week, killing a dozen Iranian military officials. The Pentagon says the top U.S. general for the Middle East is in Israel right now, meeting with Israeli military officials about the security threats. And the White House tells CNN that officials there are keeping a very close eye on the situation and are in constant communication with Israel. Let's get to the latest reporting from our correspondents. CNN International
keeping a very close eye,
Nick
bro.
Robertson is joining us from Jerusalem, and our Natasha Bertrand is over at the Pentagon. Nick, first to you. First of all, what can you tell us about this Israeli war cabinet meeting? How concerned are Israelis right now that Iran could launch an attack, a retaliatory attack against Israel?
There's a real concern, Wolf.
I am Iranian. They ain't doing shit. I mean, I'm leaning on the side of Iran not doing shit either, because like they have been remarkably restrained. Like they have been insanely restrained. Okay. So for me, that's what I'm on. That I'm leaning on the side of like Iran might not doing something crazy, but you guys know when I predict stuff, the exact opposite tends to happen. So no predictions for me, brother. Can't be doing that. I mean, Israel has brought this upon themselves, but of course, no one will see it that way, no matter what happens. My suspicion, this is not speculation. I'm not like 100% on it. But my suspicion is that like Iran will probably blow up an embassy or some shit. Okay. An Israeli embassy specifically. Is there no global repercussion for bombing a foreign embassy? Not when you're Israel. Not when you're America either, but Israel is an extension of America. So that's how it works.
That Iran could do that in the coming 24 or 48 hours. I've talked to various intelligence sources in the region.
We'll cover the what happens if Israel goes to war with Iran.
Understand, and this is what we're getting from a lot of different sources, that Iran is poised to respond. Now, of course, this could be Iran intentionally disinforming, putting disinformation out there just to create the sense of jitters among the Israeli public here, among the leadership in Israel about precisely what they'll do, and it's unclear what they'll do. Will they respond and strike back directly to Israel themselves? Will they use proxies to strike into Israel? Will they strike Israeli interests elsewhere in the region? That's a question on people's minds at the moment, but that strength and show of unity and support between the United States and Israel is on display today at the Hatzor Air Base in the south of Israel. The CENTCOM commander, General Eric Kurilla, there with Yoav Gallant, the Israeli Defense Minister, the Deputy IDF Chief of Staff, also there. So this is very much a message of unity and strength and preparedness. So this is what we heard from Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the IDF's spokesperson, just last night.
I mean, it is kind of confusing. This coverage is kind of confusing, all things considered, because honestly, they are, I mean, some of the other coverage that we saw yesterday was like, Iran is going to fuck around and find out. Like, you still get that kind of like, talk shit, get hit, Iran, which is ironic because like Israel started it literally by striking their embassy. But, oh, here's Biden, who just said he expects an attack sooner rather than later. I mean, it's going to happen this weekend is what everybody's saying. Yeah, he said the expectation is sooner rather than later, just now. Breaking news. Israel is hoping Iran will respond so they have an excuse to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. A broader conflict with Iran that draws the United States of America into it is going to not be beneficial for Israel's long-term existence in the region. I don't think that Iran itself is like a super powerful country, but they are significantly more powerful than Hamas is. They have actual missile capabilities. That's a whole standing nation. Like, think about it this way. Israel has a hard time dealing with Hamas as it's doing ethnic cleansing, right? And then you level up a little bit. You look at Hezbollah, which Israel has lost to in the past, which has its own military. You look at another regional player like Yemen, which has withstood genocide, but at least like they have some semblance of autonomy and are not like Hamas at all. And with the limited capabilities that the Yemen population has, they've been able to shut down the Red Sea. Okay? A little bit goes a long way as long as you are willing to take actions in this region. Okay? You're talking about Israel trying to deal with dudes who make bathtub rockets. When I say bathtub rockets, I'm not joking. They literally make their rocket launchers like by hand. They make their sniper rifles by hand. They use bomb parts that Israel has bombed in the region to basically make this shit, to whip it up. If Israel's having a hard time with them, and America is having a hard time with the Houthis, okay, a much broader conflict is going to be devastating not only for Israel, but for the entire globe. Why? Because Iran is a whole-ass nation state. Iran is a whole-ass nation state that has been outside of the orbit of American influence for multiple decades, almost half a century, I mean, more than half a century at this point. Almost a century at this point. So clearly, they are propped against this sort of thing. This is like the reason for the existence of these. Indian chatter here. Are you basically saying that Iran is lying too, sir? No, I've always had this notion that I repeat regularly, which is that war with a whole ass fucking state is not fought on how many people do they have, what are their capabilities versus how many people does the other side have and what are their capabilities. All war is about attrition. Okay? And countries that are more authoritarian or have withstood sanctions for many, many years are going to be able to withstand attrition for much longer. They have more mileage because their living conditions are already dog shit for the most part. Okay? That's why when you look at Israel's actions, Israel's military actions in the region, or when you look at Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza versus the way that Hamas operates, you recognize that like they can get away with dying by the tens of thousands, even if you were to hit like Hamas commanders or whatever. It's not the same as killing one Israeli soldier. That takes a much larger toll on Israel. It's more expensive for Israel. There's more of a psychological toll on Israel. When Palestinians, all they know is death and destruction, and they have nowhere else to go, they're going to fucking sit there in a tunnel and wait. They can wait out Israel's ethnic cleansing. The same to a certain degree goes for Iran. Now, obviously, the Iranian living conditions for the average citizens is much better than Palestinians, but Iran also has a shit ton more capabilities as far as missile systems and also where they can hit those missiles. While Hamas cannot operate and has never historically operated outside of Gaza, right, and maybe to a certain degree in the West Bank every now and then, Iran can hit Saudi Arabia. Why is that significant? Because if you hit Saudi oil refineries, you all of a sudden are making this a much broader conflict for the rest of the planet. Iran has struck Saudi refineries in the past. Saudi Arabia knows this. Saudi Arabia knows that this is a genuine capability of Iran. We're not even talking about just the axis of resistance against Israel and America. We're talking straight up Iran potentially blowing up oil refineries and shutting down the Saudi capabilities. All of a sudden, there's an energy crisis for the rest of the globe. This is a major problem for everyone. It's a major political problem for the Western world, which is grown comfortable. So this is very important to understand, okay? This is very important to understand.
speaking about how prepared Israel is for whatever threat comes from Iran.
We're highly alert and prepared for a wide range of scenarios and are conducting a situational assessment. We're ready in both defense and offense with the various IDF capabilities and strategic partners.
Like, think about it this way. It's especially tricky for Europe, who are literally only just recovering from the cutoff from Russian oil. That didn't even officially happen. Like, utilizing non-Russian mediators to get Russian gas and oil literally made Russian oil more costly, right? It made Russian oil and gas more costly for Europe, and even that had a political toll. So when you think about it, like, we in the Western world are kind of weak due to our comfort, due to the living conditions that we are used to experiencing. It's weakness from the framework of, like, if we are thinking about war as attrition, the country that is invading, or the country that is facilitating an invasion, the country that is facilitating an invasion thousands of miles away, has much more to lose, even when their comforts are taken away. Bro, who's weak, lol? The United States of America is weaker as a whole because of a couple different reasons. One, we have some semblance of democracy, or an attitude that we have a belief that we have a theoretical democratic process in place. That is weakness if you're thinking about war.
And I think you get a level of the understanding of how this concern is shared jointly between the United States and Israel, the State Department and the embassy here, warning staff not to stray beyond the sort of Tel Aviv area, Jerusalem area, Beersheba area. Stay in those areas. The concern is it's just not clear what Iran's move is going to be, the sense that it could be soon, Wolf.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern, and those the U.S. Embassy and other embassies in Israel as well are issuing warnings to their citizens to stay put, basically, and start worrying about the potential. Let's hope it doesn't happen, about the potential of this war escalating big time between Israel and Iran. Natasha, I want to go to the Pentagon with you for a moment. The top U.S. military commander in the Middle East, the commander of the U.S. Military Central Command, is in Israel right now. We just heard Nick talk about that. What do we know about his trip, the coordination that's going on between the United States and Israel in anticipation, in fear of a full-scale Iranian retaliatory response?
Well, Wolf, Eric Kurilla, the top general for the Middle East, he did say that the U.S. and the Pentagon did say also that the U.S. stands with Israel against any potential attack that Iran might launch against the Israelis. And President Biden made this very clear as well, that they are in constant coordination with the Israelis to prepare for the possibility that they do launch some kind of attack directly on Israeli soil. And according to a readout from the Israeli side, General Eric Kurilla, he did meet with Yoav Gallant today to discuss.
For the record, Israel has stated, I don't know if they would follow through on this, but Israel has stated that if Iran strikes them in any capacity, they are already doing military training with the Cypriot military for striking Iranian targets inside of the Iranian state. So Israel has said that they will increase the pressure. Not like not taking pot shots against IRGC leadership or other axis of resistance forces in Syria and in Iraq, and also against Hezbollah in Lebanon, okay, in southern Lebanon. Israel has violated a couple red lines. Israel has crossed a couple boundaries. First, obviously, the escalation and going into Gaza and doing ethnic cleansing. Okay? But if these other regional actors consider Palestinian lives to be at least remotely expendable, there are a couple other red lines that Israel has definitely crossed that violate, like, that rational actors in the region have to respond to. Because if they don't actually respond to it, then Israel has shown that they will continue going harder and harder and harder. These red lines are striking Beirut. Israel has in the past struck Beirut, but very limited. Okay? But striking Beirut is a major escalation. Striking Beirut is a major escalation against Hezbollah and against the Lebanese state in general. Another even more major red line that was crossed was this past week when Israeli forces bombed the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus. Okay? When you do that, you are basically hitting Iranian territory. They took out a bunch of higher level IRGC people, but you are not allowed to do that. You can't, like, there are rules to this sort of thing. So when Israel is operating like this, other regional actors have to do something. Consulate, not embassy, sorry, the consulate compound. But like, you have to do something. You have to retaliate, or else Israel has shown that they will continue escalating over and over and over again. And that is the predicament that Israel has placed Iran in. That is the predicament that Israel has placed every other regional actor in. Okay? They are belligerent. They are striking blindly at anyone and everyone they can. And I think their ultimate goal is to try to draw the United States into a broader conflict against Iran. I think that's the reason why they're doing this. Now, if I can make this speculation, then I'm assuming American State Department operatives can make this speculation as well, as they have a shit ton more information and more knowledge. More direct, on the ground knowledge, like espionage capabilities are much better for the State Department than someone like myself. They're getting direct information from Israel. They know better. Okay?